Hearing John McCarthy and Andrew Malkinson discussing their respective incarceration, uh, McCarthy uh, taken hostage and Andrew Malkinson convicted of a crime he never did, both knowing that they were being held inappropriately, wrongly, on, on spurious grounds, both not knowing when they would be freed, both taking refuge in books. Uh, the the links are extraordinary, but in the end, uh, the really moving moment on Radio 4 comes when uh, Andrew Malkinson says that he doesn't feel he belongs in this country because even once he'd been released after DNA evidence proved that he couldn't have committed the crime, he was still on the sex offenders list. And when finally his appeal was heard and he was completely exonerated uh, last year, he still hasn't received the compensation that was promised. And I've been sort of banging on about this for a while. The government is so tardy in doing the right thing. It makes noises, it says things, it promises things, but it doesn't follow through with the sort of speed that it demands of others. Exactly like the bank. The bank demands your money by 2 o'clock on a particular day in order to pay a bill, and yet, when it is in the wrong and promises compensation, that compensation can take 2 or 3 working days or longer before it finally comes through. Why is it one rule for the people in control and another rule for you and me? And Andrew Malkinson has been treated shamefully. Of course he wants to travel. Of course he wants to get out of this country. Because this country is run by thugs who cannot do proper justice when they are found to have acted wrongly. That is the definition of a thug, isn't it? When you're in the wrong, you just hit or you sulk. This is a sulk by the British government, isn't it? Who wants to be run by a government that sulks? This is the behaviour of a child. The Home Office, the least it could have done was to have called Andrew Malkinson, as Radio 4 called Andrew Malkinson, and got him in to talk through the problem and explain that there are logistic issues, maybe there are, that need to be sorted out before the money can finally get through to his account. Does he have an account anymore? Do the banks even recognise his existence? But Suella Braverman wasn't big enough for that. James Cleverly doesn't seem to have done it. Why not? Why are these people so unbelievably reluctant to deal with their problems, and yet at the same time they're so eager to get on television? They've got it upside down. This is the behaviour of children. And we need to be ruled by grown-ups. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute, by the way. Just those people who assume I'm some sort of crypto-socialist. I'm not. I'm not at all. I will be as critical of the next Labour Party as I am of the current Conservative Party. I have no great, I have no great affection for Sir Keir Starmer, except that he's not Rishi Sunak. And and this morning the story about Tony Blair's flirtation with challenging the ECHR doesn't come as any great surprise to me. None at all. People in power think they have some sort of control over the entire system. And they test that control and they play around. Now, I happen to think Blair was one of our better prime ministers, but not because he was a Labour prime minister, simply because he was effective. The fact that he flirted with things which I would consider out of out of thought is neither here nor there. You have to think of everything. You have to consider everything before you dismiss it, because even in something which you absolutely dismiss, there may be a kernel of truth. Even in Suella Braverman's laws, we can't call them bills anymore, they have been passed, there may be kernels of truth and details which can be picked up and used. They mustn't be thrown out with the bathwater. But the actual stuff is deeply wrong. And at the moment, we've got a number of issues for compensation, and all of them seem to be delayed. Grenfell, Windrush, Horizon, Malkinson, and others. These are just the things that we know about. We need a better system for compensation and for acknowledging when the system goes wrong and learning. Because if we don't learn, then we're going to have more and more of these. And we must challenge the system. The only way that the system works is if it's challenged and questioned. And that's the role of His Majesty's loyal opposition. And that has been what has been lacking throughout much of this Conservative government. And that's what, the people who say, we have to crush the current Conservative Party, well, utter rot. We have to make the current Conservative Party good enough to be a viable and effective opposition. Because at the moment, it's neither good enough to be a government, nor is it good enough to be an opposition.